What's good, what's good, what's good? It's your boy Micah back at it again with another fucking video. I'm going to talk about a variety of topics today. The first thing I want to start off by saying is that as a necromancer, you, the one who's watching, that's walking this path called necromancy, you work with and sometimes for the spirits of the dead until such a time as you start to work on your own using your own will, power, and energy. You are not a negotiator. Just because you can make pacts with the spirit of the dead does not mean you're powerful. It means you are simply know how to negotiate and make deals, which can be argued, okay, that's a form of power. I agree. However, it's not the real power that you're after, because sometimes negotiations can fail. We're dealing with spirits of the dead who also have free will. Another thing is that do not assume that just because you're calling up a spirit of the dead, just in general, is the dead, undead, vampiric spirit, or whatever, do not assume that just because you evoke it, that it has to come to you, that it has to do what you ask it to do. All beings, living and dead and even undead, have a small spark that's left of their original free will that is still powerful. And it provides them sentience, a form of it, to where they can analyze decisions, they can analyze situations and determine if this really needs to be done, because they're thinking on a completely different level than us humans are. Another thing to put in your pipe and smoke is this. The reality of necromancy has its good sides and its bad sides, or what's perceived to be bad. The video I did yesterday where I was shirtless, I did that for a reason, to show you some of the physical effects of it. And you can see as I go through the video, at some portions I look like I've been wrung the fuck out out of life essence and shit. And then in other portions you see I look stronger, more physically buff, that kind of thing. It's the natural ties and changes that come along with the death essence. That's going to happen to you as well, whether you're male, female, trigender, pyrofox, whatever the fuck you identify as, is going to happen to you as well. There are physical changes that occur with this. Often overlooked aspect is the, and I wanted to cover this yesterday, but slipped my fucking mind. Another important aspect is physical control and exercise. If you expect to powerfully channel curses, death essence, even healings, helping entities cross over, doing possessions and all this other kind of shit, then you're going to need to get fit physically. This does not always come through like exercise and shit like that. There are some people out there who have difficulty, gaining muscle, hard gainers, so to speak. There are some people out there with various bodily factors that might, prevent them from doing that kind of thing. But what it comes from is the application of will and your sorcery. I said it once and I'm going to say it again. If you have an affinity for a particular type of sorcery and you do that shit correctly on a consistent basis, you will get fit by default. You will grow stronger physically, mentally, spiritually. As an example, the destructive aspect of things. If a person is in tune with their magic, in tune with their energy, and they go about doing destructive rituals, cleanse themselves afterwards, all that good shit, then they're going to find that over time, their body gets stronger and more in tune with those aspects just by default. So you're going to be, if you're a male, you're going to be looking ripped as a motherfucker just off of doing the fucking sorcery alone, because you're so in tune with it. And that alchemy creates physical changes as well as energetic changes. It can be the same thing with healing work, you do the healing work for someone and you notice over time that as you heal this person, your own body gets better. If you have a disease and you're a healer, whether it's diabetes, fibromyalgia, whatever the fuck it is, you heal other people and you find that your fibromyalgia or whatever it is starts to go into remission. it gets better and better and better and better. And you'll also find that the bigger the target, the greater the reward. To put it into context, if you heal someone who has AIDS, you're going to find that the return benefit you get off of that is much greater than just healing somebody with the flu, as all healing is not the same. You feel me? This is especially true in the area of mental health. So for those of you necromancers or healers that struggle with mental issues or whatever, heal another person who has a mental issue, preferably one more severe than yours. Do that successfully, and if you're really in tune with your shit, your own shit will be cured. Your own shit will get better. Like attracts like. Healing attracts healing. Health attracts health. You feel me? On the more destructive end of the spectrum, when we're talking about attunement and affinity and all this other kind of shit, the possibilities are endless. You can have one person who has the same general area of destructive sorcery, yet their own application will be totally different than yours or the next person's. So you have to really meditate, think, be in tune with your own spirit, your own higher self, in order to discern, okay, this is the best method for me to accomplish this goal and be in tune with my shit, therefore I can reap this reward. So oftentimes it's just that simple, using your fucking head. In terms of control, I remember I was reading this comic called The Legend of Luther Strode. Very good comic, by the way. I recommend, like, y'all watch that shit. But in one of the scenes, Luther Strode was fighting another character. And he had the skill, he had the supernatural strength, he had the power, he had all that shit. But one thing he lacked was control. Because lack of control is how accidents happen. That kind of thing. In order to develop this kind of control that's needed over death essence, the dead to a degree, that kind of thing, physical work has to be put in. Mental work has to be put in. Spiritual work has to be put in. Here's what I mean. When you feel an overwhelming flow of death essence, you don't bitch out and stop the ritual and fucking run off like a scared little bitch. You fucking stick that shit out and you learn how to channel it correctly. That way it doesn't screw your body up. You learn how to concentrate and use your will to hold your mind to a single point. That way you can effectively direct the flow of energy. You create talismans or freaking oils, elixirs, etc. that will help you to control this energy better. You do all that is within and sometimes without your power in order to get to where you need to be. And this application of will is what brings mastery, because you're making yourself do it, even if you don't fucking feel like it. It's called discipline. And that energetic and mental, spiritual discipline is what brings about power and mastery, especially in these death arts. Because please keep in mind, you're working with death in all its aspects. Death is volatile as fuck. And at the same time, it's orderly as fuck. We see it all too often on the news when this famous actor or some shit, they going about their life and then boom, they crash into a tree. They die. Fucking Chinese stuntman fell off a fucking building after doing stunts perfectly. Death happened to come for him at that moment. You feel me? So you have to keep in mind to know what you working with. Once again, know what you are working with. Because, how can I put this? The fault is not even about the entity itself, or the fault does not lie with death itself. You're simply performing a science. Because that's what death magic is. It is a fucking science. And when you fuck with the science, you're going to get the proper fucking results. If you fuck with it the wrong way, or try to substitute a fucking chemical, try to cheat the science, the science is not going to get mad. The science is emotionless. It's simply going to course correct, and you're going to get caught in the fucking karma, so to speak. Does that make sense? So, as a necromancer, you have to realize you are also a scientist in a way. Whether it's like a scientist of death or otherwise. You're learning how the body works, how the body causes life, how the body causes death. You're learning how the spirit causes life and the spirit causes death. You're learning how the mental body, the mind, influences this process. You're learning external and internal means in order to bring demise or healing to an enemy or to a friend, to a lover, that kind of thing. You learn the properties of the blood and how the fucking bioelectricity courses through the blood and how you can use that in sympathetic resonance, drawing it from a particular organ to save the organ of another human being. That kind of thing. I remember I had this friend, she's still one of my friends, but it was an incident a couple of months ago where her aunt had spontaneous bleeding. It was her aunt, if I'm not mistaken. She had spontaneous bleeding, throwing up blood, all that other kind of shit. And her kidney was fucking failing. And I did a ritual to where I drew small little lancet, nothing major, but I drew fucking blood from my left fucking kidney and used that in sympathetic resonance to provide life essence and regeneration to her kidney, which worked out beautifully. She's healthy, strong, all that shit. She ain't had to have no surgery, the bleeding stopped, all that kind of stuff. I use the knowledge I have and understanding this level of understanding that I have of the science in order to accomplish what needed to be accomplished. I'm gonna put a pin in that for a minute because I think that was enough for you guys. In regards to really living this necromantic path, I believe I said this in another video, but physical murder is not necessary in order for you to really master death magic. I knew someone who went about killing motherfuckers, physically and magically. Like, holy shit, yo, killing them. Of course, in secret and all this other kind of shit. But in the end, it brought about her demise. Not so much in a negative way, but she just went about the same goal from an unnecessary route. And physical murder is that unnecessary route due to the times and society that we are living in. Now, if this was back in like AD 7, or no, like fucking 7 BC or some shit, hey, it's free game. Like fucking, if you do your research, your history, you have deities presiding over murder that would encourage that shit. Fucking Christianity, Islam, Judaism, that deity over them encourages that shit because it gives them energy and is done in a fucking religious fervor, energetic craze, so to speak. And that is the reason why physical murder is not necessarily an option regarding death magic. Because when you do it, you're expending so much fucking energy. You're putting out such a big signal in the fucking universe that when you don't clear it, it attracts spirits of justice, spirits of incarceration and imprisonment on both the spiritual and physical level, and they can trace your energy, see what you did, and arrange things and pull threads of fate in order to bring about the necessary consequences. This is why fucking some serial killers or murderers in general, their case gets closed for about 20 years. They go on thinking they got away with shit. And then all of a sudden something comes up which then convicts them and they get sent into prison or given the death penalty. You feel me? They never clear that energetic stain away from them, from their fucking spiritual record, so to speak. That's why you don't need to do physical murder when it comes to death magic and necromancy. In this society that we live in, death is all around us. Death is within us. It is outside of us, as is life. And there is a balance that is maintained in the beginning stages of necromantic mastery, and then that same balance is transcended to be manipulated at will. This is going up into levels of like death gods and that kind of thing. And also is composed of having mastery of things outside the grave and that area of influence. Because think about it, the most minute things can cause freaking death. You can trip and fall or some shit like that. You can fucking get ran over by a car, a metal object, the element of metal. You can be burned alive in a house fire, the element of fire, that kind of thing. These things don't directly relate to the grave, but they cause death nonetheless, therefore they're part of the death current. You feel me? And so as you start to really transcend this balance of life and death and even fucking undeath and shit, you start to see how things can really be manipulated, not just on a physical level, but on a mental level. If some of your specialties or affinities is in matters of divination, like clairvoyance, clairsentience, that kind of thing, you can start feeling the death on a person. You can start feeling the diseases that they have. If you're clairvoyant, you can see that they're about to die. If your clairvoyance is highly developed, then you can see like a fucking time clock over the person that's constantly ticking down, ticking down, ticking down. The sands of time running out, that kind of thing. And you start to even transcend that and gain a greater respect and understanding for death and for your own life that you've been given. Even if you're a self-made man, self-made God, whatever the fuck it is, even if you are a living God, you gain an appreciation for what you were before you became a God and what you are and then what you are going to be. That kind of thing. You start to plot your actions more wisely, and it really becomes a humbling fucking experience, because the proper equation for growth as a necromancer is this: the more power you get, the more humble you should get. I'm gonna say it again. The proper equation for growth as a necromancer is the more power you get, the more power you wield, the more humble you should get at the same time. Now, that doesn't mean you gotta be self-defacing. You gotta fucking take a shit on yourself and all that other kind of stuff. No, it doesn't mean that. But you see what this shit is really about, or at least part of what it is really about. You start to see how this is indeed a matrix, so to speak. For example, to take a side note, have you ever thought about the first person ever to die on Earth? How that must have felt when death did not exist until that first person actually died? Yeah, that's something to put in your pipe and smoke. Think about that for a little bit. But freaking you start to see how this matrix is formed and how even through your own path, necromancy, you can fucking transcend that matrix and be free in thought, mind, body, and spirit. How you can choose not to be influenced by certain agents of death, whether it be living humans, drugs, plant spirits, objects, that kind of thing. You understand, and this is kind of transcending into the more lighter solar aspect of necromancy. You start to understand how to manipulate your vitality, how to heal yourself, how to extend your lifespan, how to extend the lifespan of others, how not to make stupid fucking choices that can shorten your lifespan, how not to give in to egotistical bullshit, whether it's online fighting, dick measuring contests, all that other kind of shit. You learn not to be intimidated by motherfuckers talking about, oh, well, we could physically crush you, the four of us could do this, that, and the other, because you realize everybody dies the same. We bleed the same, we piss the same, we shit the same, we die the same. So you have nothing left to lose, you feel me? At the same time, this is not a necromancy, or the lighter size of the more transcendent aspects, is not a call to go into some like transcendental Buddhism type crap. No, you also gain an appreciation and a degree of attachment to material things. You only live once, right?